Okay, let's talk about the OET reading part A. This is all about having a winning strategy because really it's a race against the clock. How you approach it, that's everything.
So, the very first thing you need to burn into your brain is this number 15. That's it. That's all the minutes you get. It's not a lot of time, which means every single second counts.
And in those 15 minutes, you've got to answer this many questions 20. Yeah, so you can do the math, right? And that simple calculation, that's the core challenge of this entire test.
So, to break this all down, we're going to look at it in 5 key parts. We'll start with the challenge itself, then we'll decode the test's blueprint. After that, we'll get into a winning strategy, master the 2 key skills you need, and finally bring it all together with speed and accuracy.
All right, so what is the real problem here? I'll tell you. It's not about being a good reader like you would be with a novel. Not at all. The real challenge is all about high-speed information retrieval. And you're doing it under some pretty intense pressure.
And just to put that pressure into perspective, you have about 45 seconds per question. Think about that. That's not just to answer it. That's to find the right text, locate the specific info, and write it down. There's just no time to waste.
And this right here, this quote says it all. You've got to shift your mindset. Part A is not about reading every word carefully. It's about knowing where to look and grabbing the right information fast. You're not a reader here, you're more like an information detective.
The first step to any good strategy is understanding the battlefield, right? So let's decode the blueprint of this test. We need to know how the texts and the questions are actually put together.
So here's a key insight. The texts are super predictable. They almost always follow this exact pattern. Text A gives you the overview, B is about treatment, C is all about medication, and D gives you case-specific details. Just knowing this, well, that's your first big advantage. Okay, let's look at a real example so you see what I mean. Just like we predicted, right? This text A here is about fractures. And look, it starts with definitions and an overview. This isn't just a coincidence, it's by design. And you can totally use this to your advantage.
All right, next up, the questions. You're going to face 3 different types. You've got matching questions, which are basically asking where the info is. Then you have a short answer and gap fill, where you have to pull specific words or phrases right out of the text.
And here's what those matching questions look like. See? For each of these, you just have to decide, is the info in text A, B, C, or D? That's it. Keep this format in mind because it's absolutely key to the strategy we're going to talk about.
Okay, so now we get it, right? We understand the structure. So let's build an actual effective strategy for managing those precious 15 minutes. So, what's the smartest way to do this? Do you just start at question 1 and plow through? No way. A strategic approach is way, way more powerful.
And here it is. It's a simple 3-step process. First, take maybe a minute, maybe 2, and just skim all 4 texts. I mean skim, not read. Just get the purpose. Then, you're going to dive into the short answer and gap fill questions. And finally, and this is super important, you leave the matching questions for the very end. Okay, but why? Why leave matching for last? Well, think about it. By the time you've hunted down the answers for the short answer and gap fill, you'll have a much better feel for where everything is. But more importantly, those matching questions are your safety net. If you look at the clock and you're almost out of time, you can answer them super fast, just A, B, C, D, and you won't leave any blanks. It's a game changer.
Now, this whole strategy, it really depends on you mastering 2 foundational skills. Without these, the approach just won't work. So let's break them down. First skill, skimming effectively. And this isn't just, casual reading. It is a targeted search. You want to focus only on titles and subheadings. Read the very first and last sentences of the paragraphs, and just let your eyes jump to the key words, the medical terms, the drug names, symptoms, any numbers or data. And remember, the whole point of skimming is not to understand everything. It's to build a mental map. You want to finish that skim and be able to think, okay, I remember seeing something about side effects. That was in text C. That's it. That's the goal. Okay, the second skill is what I call extraction accuracy. And the rule here is incredibly strict. You have to be a robot. If the text says elevated blood pressure, You must write exactly that. If you write high BP, even though we all know it means the same thing, it will be marked wrong. No exceptions. I really can't say this enough. Spelling mistakes are penalized. Strictly. This isn't like other tests where they might give you some leeway. There is zero room for error. Your job is to be a perfect copy machine. Lift the words straight from the text and make sure every single letter is correct. All right, so let's bring it all together. Success in Part A, it isn't just about being fast, and it's not just about being accurate. The secret is combining the two into one smooth, efficient process. And we come back to this central idea because it is honestly the most important thing to take away from all of this. Part A is not a traditional reading test. It's testing a very specific professional skill. Can you find the right information in a bunch of documents quickly and copy it without making a single mistake? So ultimately, it really just boils down to these two things working together. You need search speed, that's knowing where to look, and you build that by skimming and understanding the test structure. And you need extraction accuracy, which just means being super disciplined about copying words exactly as they appear. So this strategy gives you the framework, right? But the mastery, that comes from practice. It's about honing these skills until they just become second nature. So the real question is, are you ready to combine that speed with that accuracy?